Well, welcome to Sober Banter.
Hi, welcome to Sober Banter. Oh, I'm Colin.
I'm Rachel, and we have two guests with us today. Who wants to go first? We have
Okay.
Janice.
Oh, I'm Janice. I am a recovering alcoholic, and I am here with my daughter today.
And the daughter is Katie.
Hey, I'm Katie. Yes, I'm Katie. Just Janice's daughter.
I mean, it's a fine title. It's like it's cool because it's just a different perspective of someone who doesn't identify as alcoholic but has someone in their family with, who's in recovery.
Have been through it.
And been through it. See, so my sister does not identify as alcoholic either, and she was in the house with my mom the last 2 years.
So she really saw the change and transition because, she was living because you were already out of the house.
And I was mad. I was mad when my mom got sober because it was the year I was turning 21, of legal age to drink, and not only that, but my dad was, far worse, and I really felt she was trying to steal the spotlight. Like, they had been divorced since I was 13, but it was a very bad divorce. And my dad really has never recovered from the divorce. I was like, "You're not the one who needs help. Dad is, like, how dare you?" And I mean, looking back, that was something I made an amend for, but yeah, I wasn't happy when my mom got sober. And I've learned in recovery, not everyone is happy when you get sober.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I relate to that statement a lot. Yeah, it's just the time, going through my mom's, rock bottom and everything with her, we were happy for her to get sober, but especially that first year of sobriety and even into, her second year of sobriety, it was just there was so much awkwardness, and it was it is all about, um, the recovering addict and keeping them sober, and, it's a very important part of the recovery journey, but it seems very selfish and very self-involved. So I relate to that a lot for sure.
I remember times, hide all the alcohol. Like, my mom's coming over. Like, I thought it was gonna be a trigger or some sort. And I mean, now as someone who's sober, I know it's not a trigger, but I would be like, guys, my mom's coming. Don't talk about drinking. Don't have any,
Well, I remember one time we said to your mom we were doing Sober October and we'd already caved by the first weekend and we bought a house in the same neighborhood as her mom. So her mom just randomly stopped by and we're like, oh, throw everything in a drawer, quick. We're still so October.
It's bad.
Well, you probably have some interesting insight in trying to get sober with a sober parent. So none of my kids are alcoholics or addicts, but I really fear because I believe in the genetic link that I came from two alcoholic parents. I think I was probably destined. Once you put enough alcohol in, I feel like you tip the scales, and that's what happened to me. So I think I'm a little nervous, neurotic might
Oh, I
be
am
even
too.
appropriate about my children. And I remind them all the time. I don't know if I do it too much.
Call my mom. There were times when, if I were really drunk, and I remember calling, being like, how do I avoid becoming an alcoholic? Is there a point where you can, skip the disease? And I don't remember what she said, but at the time I was looking for insight on to make sure I didn't end up having a problem with alcohol because I loved it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I know from my experience too, because I grew up in an alcoholic home, I was always aware of my drinking. And early on, I think I had other addictive behaviors like running and swimming and stuff like that. So that I didn't start drinking until I was 40. And because I drank socially, I drank like normal people for 20 years.
Yeah.
But in my 40s, I was in total denial because I had drank pretty much like everyone else. And so it crept up on me. And at some point, I feel like I went from, social drinker to alcoholic. And it's hard to say exactly when, but I did. The point I was trying to get us for during that time, I tried so hard to moderate my drinking to try and fix myself in every way other than giving up alcohol.
Same.
So, yeah.
That was the only thing I didn't want to give up.
But I think a lot of what the other problems lead to codependency on alcohol. And I think that that's something that's fixing those other things is important. And that's one thing that, like, even though, like, I'm sure my mom does worry, like, it's genetics, it's whatever, like, it's something that, like, she wants us all to keep an eye on, to avoid that from happening to any of us. But I think that taking care of our mental health, doing things like going to therapy, and having like good balance throughout the rest of our lives is something that you also stress as important for all of us.
So did you start doing did you get your degree before or after sobriety?
I got it before. And here's 2 points I want to make. This shows how insidious the disease is and how important it is to take care of yourself. But I grew up in the alcoholic home, decided early on I wasn't going to become an alcoholic or have problems. And I was automatically drawn to social work, helping people. Because, they say you grow up in a dysfunctional home, or alcoholic home. You become an alcoholic, you marry one, or you go into the helping field. So I like to say I became a social worker. And then, and my passion was working with adolescents and families who were afflicted by addiction. So I started off like the first 10 years of my career working in the addiction field, which when I was struggling with my own drinking, I had this huge amount of guilt and shame over, And that really worked against me because I could fuel all of the denial and things like that. It could be like, yeah, because, I haven't had a DUI, so I'm not an alcoholic. I haven't lost my kids. I haven't physically abused my kids. All those things kind of fueled my denial and made it harder. I have to say that, so I worked in that field for a while. And then when I got married and had kids, part of that time I was a stay-at-home mom. Part of that time I worked in the school system, a little bit with Catholic social services. So I did different types of social work. And then after I got sober, went through the experience with my family where I hurt my kids almost as much in early sobriety as I did in active addiction. Then I got back into my passion for addiction, and it kind of grew naturally because once I kind of had a plan and tools on how to help other people repair relationships, I started talking about it at meetings and going to speaker meetings, and people kept saying to me, and my therapist too was like, you should put this in a book. You've always said you wanted to write a book. So it just kind of evolved naturally. And then I want to go back to when Katie introduced herself. Katie and my relationship has been a great demonstration of how you can go from horrible to amazing. She currently she's not just my daughter. She's also like my technical advisor, my social media manager, everything. She helps me so much. And she's also, in a sense, because I still struggle with insecurities. Writing a book and asking, people seeking an agent, all of that stuff, you get a tremendous amount of rejection. And all my kids have been supportive, but Katie in particular has always been, go for it, go for it, go for it. You can do this. I love what you do. And that has just meant so much to me.
That's awesome.
That is so cool because it's hard.
Well, even we've kind of dealt with recently the imposter syndrome that you kind of feel sometimes, and just getting the idea of starting this podcast and wanting to just share, we kind of just say it's a sober couple just kind of going through life and our observations of things and just wanting to get other people, and because everyone's different, everyone's sobriety is different, how they all attack it is different. I don't we don't think there's any wrong way to necessarily do it. But yeah, it's that you need someone in your corner, like you said your daughter was. It was just like, yeah, do it, go for it, and don't worry about the rejection, or even when you feel like you're an imposter, like, oh wow, we're getting a lot of people, but we don't know what we're doing. Like, this is our second interview, and it's like, no, who cares? Just block it out, go for it, spread the message, do whatever, and just have fun with
And
it.
we have to make amends after, because setting up, it's like, no, you're not doing it right. No, you're not doing it right. And I mean, people have like a producer, like this is just like, even the lighting right now, I'm like, oh my God, is that not overkill? Like, do we really, is that necessary? Like, but he does video for his real job. Like I'm in school. So after I got sober, I was the one that said, I want to go study how to help others. But I can tell you that I can relate to the feeling that you're talking about when, even you said in active addiction or early addiction. I have 2 alcoholic parents, and both of their parents are alcoholic both times. So I'm like 7th generation alcoholic. And Colin he didn't have traumatic childhood. He had even though his parents were divorced early, they have a good relationship. Mind you not, it was trauma. And I have to remind Colin, communication wise, my body will start shutting down when I start remembering things that are happening, like with Evan. And my body knows how I was treated as a kid. And like, I go into overprotective mode because my body is like, protect him from what happened to you. Don't let what happened to you happen to him. And then it becomes to Colin's like, well, we have to teach him lessons. We're not going to do it the way your parents did. But my body, like,
Can't overprotect all
I mean,
kind of thing.
it's really, really hard, because I was told, go emotions or not allowed to happen. You go to your room, you hide. If you are not happy, you go away. Or there was the emotional abuse of, they did not want us around unless we were quiet and
Drinking maybe, or
taken
whatever.
care of.
Yeah.
My mom, if she was home, not working in the ICU, because she was an ICU nurse. I mean, again, it was not good. So all I want to do is love Evan, which, when parenting in the beginning, I was so determined not to be my parents, and I wound up, falling asleep at the bathtub. And because I couldn't wait to drink, and like, my body would just, I needed the alcohol to get through the emotion, because I had no other coping skills.
Yeah.
So I can
relate to that too.
I'm like, and even now in sobriety, I do have, now instead of saying I need a drink, I do a meditation, but I will have to time out myself. And Collins even said, go put on a meditation really quickly, because I literally, my body just goes back to what my childhood was like.
That makes sense. Yeah. But I love that y'all are sober and y'all are doing the best thing for Evan. And I think that that's really, really beautiful and really admirable. And yeah, I love to see that.
But I'm also, I wonder if we label him a little too hard, because we see things and we're like,
That's an addiction.
you're an alcoholic, babe. Like, I can tell you that we call him a little alatot. Because he is, I see it. I see it in it. I can, I don't want to bet on my child being an alcoholic, but I'm hoping, we teach him a lot of really good coping skills, like you had talked about, especially in school for psychology. But one of the things I have done that you guys can maybe share your experience on is that, because I had alcoholic parents, there came a point in my sobriety that it was suggested I try Al-Anon or adult children.
Oh yeah.
And neither went great. I don't think I was strong enough. But the Al-Anon one, I had said, "My name's Rachel, I'm alcoholic." And I mean, when the room shut down, they're like, "You don't say you're alcoholic in here, you just say your name, you know." And then I was like, "Oh my God," I felt like the problem in the room of like caused all these people pain. And I'm just like,
Yeah.
I'm so sorry, but I'm also a child of 2 alcoholic parents, one sober, one not. Um,
Yeah.
You deserve your place in that room.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's very counterintuitive to like a AA meeting where you're supposed to lay it all on the table, like, you know. Um, so that's interesting, and that's sad to hear that the room kind of turned on you in that moment. Or at least the energy
Make it
might have
wasn't the
felt that
time.
way.
It wasn't the time for me. What was your I know you had like a little experience with Al-Anon. It's not for everyone, by the way. Like there is many,
Yeah.
many ways to cope. Like you said, therapy. There's
Yeah.
friendships. There's just a million different ways than Al-Anon or AA.
Yeah. And I think that those are great tools and resources for families of alcoholics. But I personally also did not really get too far into Al Anon or adult children of alcoholics. I know my mom at one point in time, like she played these like online meetings while we were together here and there during a certain period of time when I was living with her. But still, even then, like I didn't cling on or really like not relate, but like I didn't feel like it was helpful to me. But there was one point in college, like during my mom's early sobriety, that I thought that I was going to an Al-Anon meeting. And it's where it was advertised. It was like the only Al-Anon meeting that was in the area. And I walked in and like the meeting was going on and it was a full-blown AA meeting. And this was again early into my mom's sobriety. So I hadn't been to an AA meeting with her. I hadn't had much knowledge of AA or the recovery process yet. And I sat down for like 5 minutes and I had a friend that came with me, who was very kind to come with me. But as soon as we sat down and I found out we were in an AA meeting, I was like, I'm going to throw up. I need to get out of here. And we didn't last 5 minutes. And I was like, come on, let's go. This is uncomfortable. I'm not ready for this. I'm not prepared for this. I'm like shaking. It was like a body reaction to like escape, get out of here.
And I mean, so one thing I don't think I knew before AA, which I've also told, or Al-Anon, any of those types of recovery meetings, I'm like, you do know, like, it's not like a prison. You like, if you go in, you feel uncomfortable, you can walk out. And that's total, and no one's going to like follow you or be like, shame you. I thought like it's like an hour and like you're trapped, you know, like, and I remind people, hey, even if you just go test it out, you can leave. It's
Yeah.
okay. It might feel awkward to you.
Yeah.
I promise no one else in the rooms is like we learn in AA, people typically don't care. Like we think people care. Like my my sponsor used to say, "How important do you think you are?" Like she's like, do you think you are like the spotlight's on you? Like no one's noticing you. And she's like, I promise you're not that special. Like, you know, in the nicest way possible. But it's not something you could have told me before sobriety. I'm like, everyone's looking at me leaving. No. No one
I think
really
that's a
cares.
very
No.
human
Well-
thing in general, is to think that everyone is like judging you constantly, even if it's just like your grocery basket in Walmart. It's like, I don't know. Those are thoughts that I have. I'm like, do people see how like unhealthy my like pizzas and mac and cheese and stuff is in my grocery basket? Like, I think that that's pretty human, but no one cares.
Yeah, but the only difference I would say of or the next phase would be when I feel that uncomfortable, my brain automatically used to go, I need a drink right now, or I can't stop these thoughts. Like for a therapist that I had the best way of explaining she talks about birds fly, you know, and you have a thought like, oh my God, people looking at my grocery basket, and you just continue on. Where
Yeah.
when the bird stops and starts building a nest is where you're having an intrusive thought. And it's like, I look at the basket and I'm like, oh my God, I hate myself. I hate me. I hate how I am. Oh my God, the only way to make this stop is to get alcohol or a drug in me right now. And then I'll go to the wine aisle and be like, screw it. I don't care if I said I wasn't drinking yesterday. I'm so uncomfortable. I don't know another way out of myself. And it's like that nest that just builds, and birds flying, fine. But when it starts, stop, we're gonna really build up here. And that was just
I
such a
love that analogy.
great, and it's a great
analogy.
and but now
What I want to say about meetings too is that, sometimes you have to try a number of them at different locations and places because, like, I know in my community, there's a clubhouse, and every day it has a morning meeting, a lunch meeting, and a dinner meeting. And each one of those meetings is different. Yeah. And I feel most at home at the lunch meeting because it's a lot of housewives whose kids are in school, older people who are retired. You know what I mean? Whereas the morning meeting's one flavor.
Well, and then like, because I almost look at it as they're almost each one is its own little franchise. Or we could go to a different McDonald's, and yeah, I'm throwing that as an example, but it could be a little different or taste a little different, or you have a bad experience at one. That doesn't mean every single AA meeting is going to be just.
I think they say to try 5. I think that's like the rule.
Like the one that I found that I love is because I work in downtown next to what's called the Gayborhood area. So my meeting is like 95% gay men.
And then him.
And I love it. Yeah. I'm like, there's like 1 or 2 straight guys in that meeting, but I love it. And it's my noon meeting that I go to at work. And that's
I've joined a few times and they're like, we've heard a lot about you. I'm like, I'm sure you have. I'm sure you have.
it's the one that, just generate, I gel with the most. And it's just funny how that works out that way. But yeah, you got to test out a lot of different meetings. Like you were just saying, the morning, noon, and night ones are all a little different, and you gel with the noon ones the best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask at least, so one of the things that brought you on or listening to the podcast is you have a book coming up March 11th of 2025. It is already on pre-sale. Barnes and Noble and Amazon is The Rebuilding Relationships in Recovery. And it is hard just even putting words on paper, but Katie, have you read the book before it going out or not?
So my mom had sent me a few chapters via email, and I had read a couple of the chapters, but my mom got a couple of like sample copies in the mail, and I was like, one of those has to be mine. I know. So now that I actually have a printed copy, I've since read more of the chapters, and I've been so incredibly proud of my mom throughout this whole process, from like knowing years ago before she got sober that she wanted to write a book one day, to now to then spending multiple years writing it, to then finding a book agent, to then the book agent and her finding a publisher, and then now the publishing process. It's been very inspiring from day one, and I'm just so proud of my mom. And so now I have since read many more of the chapters in the book, and I think that it is very helpful, and I think it's going to help a lot of people. I'm just really excited for it to come out, and I'm really privileged to be witness to the process, I think.
That's so cool. And how how do you feel about writing a book that your children are going to read? Like, do you think that they know most of the things, or do you feel like there's going to be some surprises in there?
Well, now Katie has probably underestimated how much she's read, because there's a few chapters that I asked both her and my middle son to read and approve. And all along, because, we have to honor other people's privacy, I have checked in with them, like, is it okay? there is not a huge amount of embarrassing self-disclosure because it's really a self-help like teaching guide. Here are some things to do. Here's some information to be aware of. A little bit about the brain, the science of the addicted brain, and things like that.
Right.
So I got permission from them all along the way. I mean, even to the point of, can I put your name into the dedication? And I'm really, really happy to say my kids decided to write an afterword, which is really, really sweet and moving. Katie and one of her brothers wrote a personal one, and then they collectively put their ideas together. And whenever I'm feeling kind of like a lot of self-doubt or blue, or like, I don't know if this book will sell and if it'll help people, I read that afterward because you know what? If nothing else, I've helped them, you know,
100%.
which is another one of my, from a parenting point of view, I think a lot of us feel really guilty about the unintentional generational dysfunction we've passed on to our kids. But like, I'm so excited for you guys. Your child is so young. I mean, he hasn't ever known you. Probably doesn't have any memory of you drinking, but
Yes.
you are
He does. You're right. Yeah.
yeah, and you're teaching him, you're role modeling all these great life skills, you know, and that's so exciting to see. And I witnessed that. So I had my first grandchildren. I've told this story before, where I've, you know, I go and help out with my grandchild, babysit, and I've watched my son and my daughter-in-law say and do things like deep breathing. They're teaching the not quite 3-year-old how to do deep breathing to calm and relax. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's a great tool, which I'm sure I didn't teach Katie and her brothers.
It's like a second chance for her.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
And that's a way that we forget ourselves as parents too, because that was one thing that was really hard for me in early sobriety. Because every time they'd be like, okay, you have to address this trauma from your own childhood. You have to do this. In my head, I would immediately go to, I did the same thing to my kids. You know what I mean? I made them feel bad, or I said this ugly thing to them, or I wasn't there, or I showed up drunk. You know, it was really easy to get wrapped up in my own mistakes as opposed to, okay, focus on the present and what we're changing now. Katie's going to be a great mom one day, and I can already tell you guys are great parents.
I mean, we have the thing that I can say though is we learned that alcohol is, but a symptom. And I mean, I'm not going to lie. I can think of 2 times off the top of my head, even in sobriety, where it's like you revert into your parent. And I'm like, oh my God, I just did what I know in AOC, I really identified with. You never knew what you were walking into. Like every day coming home, it could be happy, it could be sad, it could be. And so I was always so anxious because home was never consistent. There was never like, I knew what I was coming home to. It was, what's the flavor of today? Because it's either overly happy, overly bad. And I don't have I'm still working on my coping skills, especially like when Evan doesn't listen, but it doesn't take alcohol. Now alcohol fuels it, like it would go beyond where it should, but I still get that buildup of, well, how do I deal with this? Oh, I know how, like my parents did. We're going to throw some shit. We're going to throw, and I did. I mean, I have, I hate
But
it.
being aware of it and acknowledging it is like a great step to changing it, and moving forward and doing things different. I think that the not being aware of it is where the problem comes in,
Oh my God. And then it's just like, oh my God, I've ruined him. I'm going to go away. And again, there's that and that's why I'm in therapy. That's why I do weekly therapy. It's the reason that I have psychiatry. There's a lot of things that from my childhood I know carry over, and a lot of things pop up I was not expecting the amount of when something will happen, a memory will be like, oh my God, I haven't thought about that in years. And it's very different than what Evan's experiencing.
Well, I think that's also the difference between us is where, I'll have raising Evan, who's 5 now, he'll do something or act a certain way and it'll ignite a memory of something that I did when I was at that exact age that has been almost a forgotten memory. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh, wow, that's crazy. But when that happens to you, it's not a great memory. It's a negative, where to me, it's like usually a good memory of something, but it's almost the opposite. So I think that's also, the two differences between us is where some of those things were hidden from you. And, as Evan ages, that stuff just gets brought back up, those weird memories.
That stuff comes up. It's still second nature,
Yeah.
Katie, do you have any advice for other like teenagers or young adults on how to cope with a parent who's early in recovery? I'm just curious to see what she says.
Oh, I thought so when you said, "Do you have any advice?" I thought we were talking about being a parent, and I'm like, "I don't have a child. I have no idea. I'm not giving that out of that kind of advice." But to cope with having a parent, that's
Were you living with your mom or were you already out at college?
so I was at college when my mom went to rehab and got sober. I was in my second year of college. Um and But I was still coming home often enough to be aware of what had been going on at home. Like, she went to rehab February, and that Christmas break beforehand was a disaster. Was a wild disaster. Um, and so I wasn't unaware of the situation at home, and my 2 younger brothers, I felt in a way, a need to protect them, but I don't think that I actually protected them. If anything, I just like called my mom out and maybe made situations more explosive or worse in different times leading up to my mom going to rehab.
If you didn't do that, I think everything serves a purpose. Like that might have helped push the needle,
Yeah.
of I feel like there's things where we're like, oh, I wish I wouldn't have. I'm like, if I hadn't had that experience, I don't know that I would have gotten sober. I might have still been making excuses.
Well, I know
Yeah.
one of our last family trips was to Florida with my mom, and there was towards the end of the vacation.
They don't want a
Uh,
vacation with us again.
Yeah, they sat us down and said, "This is going to be our last vacation with you guys," because we were just such a drunk arguing mess the whole time. And that was what, 2-3 weeks before we went to AA.
It's a week and a half.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there you go. Kind of that's what I thought of when you were telling me that Christmas. And it's like, yeah, well, I think a lot of people have that one last like, oh, this is a shit show. So,
Yeah. Well, to the point we couldn't stop, like that was the luggage that we packed an extra suitcase that just had Jameson in it. Yeah. That doesn't sound like a normal statement to most people. But we thought we're geniuses.
Mhm.
We're
Yeah.
like,
In hindsight, you're like, "Oh, that maybe should have
doing
been
that."
fine."
And we have 2 handles of Jameson. And yeah, I mean, that was a very bad trip. But again, had that not happened, I don't, it had to happen for me to get to the place where you could convince me that maybe alcohol was a problem in my life.
Yeah, and maybe, like, growing up with, my mom, like, I think that there probably should have been signs earlier on that were, like, kinda like that were a little bit off. Like, my mom used to pack a bottle of vodka when we used to go to our grandparents' house, and it would just be, like, a part of your suitcase.
Yeah.
And, yeah, now looking back, it's like, do other people do that when they go visit their parents? Like, I don't.
Her parents did that too. So I thought it was normal. Like I thought that's like what you do.
Yeah,
And
yeah. And it wasn't until it got like really bad that it was like, oh my God, you've got to control this. This is a problem. Yeah. Till
Yeah.
I was screaming at you in front of grandma, and grandma was like, Katie, that's your mother. You've got to calm down and respect your mom.
My mom, who was she's the super typical codependent Al-Anon to my alcoholic dad, always covering up, cleaning up. So,
Yep. Yeah. And that's both of them, I would say, lots of codependency in my family. And so the other thing, so my grandmother and both of my sober grandparents who had over 20 years sober did not get to see me sober. And so each of my parents, not only they had almost the same as me, one sober, one not. And my grandma, our final straw of like where our relationship distanced was when she tried to force me to go to an Al-Anon meeting, and I wasn't ready. I didn't want to go. I felt like that same feeling you described. Like I was like, throw up. I just don't want to be here, and she tried to force it on me, and I'm like, you can't do that. You can't.
Yeah.
It won't work. It'll almost like do the opposite of the magnet. It's like it pushes you further away. And 2 months later after she passed, I ended up getting sober. Which I really do wish she would have saw, but it's how it happens, right?
Well, I hope she's looking down and around you, and her spirit comes and goes and still sees it. Yeah. Sees the work you've done.
But grandparents, no one had good family relationships in my family. Like my dad did not talk to either his mom or dad. My mom did have a relationship with her parents, but my dad hated her parents, so that was the codependence wedge. And they lived in different states. I was taught people are not to be trusted in the world, and it's a hard thing to overcome. Where I'm sure it sounds like as a social worker, you're probably on the people are good. People make mistakes, things happen.
well, I struggle with that still. I'm because that was what I grew up with, and my kids are like that too. I tell them, I ask them, make me accountable for when I'm looking at the half empty glass, because that's still my nature, and I fight it all the time. So it's ongoing. And then on the other hand, the social work part of me wants to believe if you're not invested in my circle, I'm probably going to perceive you as a good person. And I might not even catch on when you like accidentally insult me or say something that I may not catch that. But if you're in my inner circle, I'm not going to trust you as much.
Right.
So,
Yeah, I'm kind of the same because I know like even right now I'm having just with having I have an unknown, well, semi half diagnosed autoimmune, and the input from all of the family members. Another thing I struggled with is when you were sick, it's just allergies, move on. Just move on. And like not being believed that I'm like, so when people dismiss, so I get real, or they try to solve it for me. And I'm like, I don't want a solution. I don't want you to solve me. I want you to just listen and
Believe.
like just believe me. Just believe me. Tell them the truth. I promise. But
Yeah.
it's a hard battle to have. And I also wanted to one topic. You talked about a blog that you're kind of keeping up. So the book coming out in March is awesome, but you also have a ongoing blog where you're talking about things that are just coming up in life, right?
right.
That are with recovery or parenting or just any random, just kind of what goes on in your life, right?
True. The one I published today was about grief and it's very personal. It's not like some of them are educational teaching. This one's very personal because grief is a big issue for me, and it got triggered big time, and I had to like sit and process it. So in journaling, I just turned my journal into a blog. But part of that comes from I love going to conference teaching, reading, writing, research. So it just kind of came natural. I don't have anyone magically helping me out with editing, so it's very casual. Lots of typos. If Grammarly can't fix it real quick, it's probably there. But it's a fun thing to do. And I do at least 2 articles a month. So thanks for
So I was gonna ask, did you s- do you go by hand some of the time and then go back and type it, or do you just straight type into a computer?
well, no, I straight type into a computer. And that, my very first AA sponsor was like, you have to write it by hand. It's so much more therapeutic. But I've done that for so long that it's journaling on the laptop is just as good for me as handwriting. Actually, it's probably better for me now than handwriting.
Early in your library, you had handwritten notebooks, though.
Oh
I
yeah,
remember.
they're still floating around too.
I just was
Yeah.
curious to what everyone kind of does, because there are like as he will say, like a failed stand-up comic, he always has a little book in his pocket to write down something he's thought of. Um, but some people are like, they'll put it in the notes in their phone, which is what I do now. I don't carry around, but when it comes to journaling, I will physically write and go retype at times.
Yeah.
When did
Yeah.
you start blogging or putting that out there?
Well, actually, I had a blog like in 2011 and 12 about my experiences taking care of my elderly parents, which was very emotionally trying. Um, and then I set that aside because my drinking got in the way. But I started blogging, I guess, gosh, I don't even know if it maybe in May or something of this year. And mainly it was an outlet because of my need to keep I do some speaking and teaching, and I'm real excited about some workshops that I have coming up. But it's kind of my fix. I mean, I'm sure that goes back to the codependent part of me who loves to teach, who loves to talk. And it's kind of second nature, codependency. I'm a helper, you know. Yeah.
Are the workshops something that like anyone can participate in, or is this something?
A little bit of everything. I so most of them have been like drug and alcohol addiction conferences lately, or AA. I've spoken at a few AA conferences, women's conferences, which are good. Yeah, it's evolving. So, but I'll post it on my Instagram in case people are interested. Um, in attending.
What do you do for work? Or are you, I know if I'm hearing that you're the Instagram, I love the Instagram, by the way. I like the theme, I like the coloring. Like, I mean, I think I like, as I'm scrolling every post, I'm just like, I hope they don't think I'm weird.
Yes. At the beginning of the podcast, my mom gave me credit for social media management, but I am not her social media manager. If anything, she's tried to push me into like doing more social media. I'm just social media support. Uh, but
Listen, it's real, it's overwhelming at times.
yeah, that actually
Yeah.
originated though from when my mom found Lisa, her book agent. Lisa had said, you need an online presence. So my mom started doing the Instagram accounts and then created the website. And from the website became the blog. And you've really enjoyed the blog since. And I think that that's been a great outlet to do like side projects as well, like do some side writing rather than just like book editing, book assignments that you've been getting. So I think that that's great, but it's also cool because like how my mom says, it's like living amends. And it I don't fear my mom relapsing. And I'm grateful to not fear my mom relapsing at this point, but the continued education, the continued writing, the continued workshops that my mom goes to, like I'm just um it's confirmation that I don't need to worry moving forward in the future about our relationship becoming difficult again. Um, and so, yeah. But yeah,
Yeah.
the Instagram is all her. For work, I'm the general manager of a small restaurant at a golf course. So
Are you serious?
Yeah.
That's awesome. I worked
Yeah.
in restaurants my entire life. So, I mean, that's what I did.
yeah,
Yes.
it's it's a tough industry.
So you
Right,
that's
right.
at the golf course, that's a nice restaurant. That I was like, I can
Yes.
already
I mean,
tell you that that's
yeah.
like a club.
Yeah, I love it.
Katie?
Keeps things interesting. Every day there's a new problem to solve, or something breaking, or someone calling out, or you know what I mean. There's always something to keep my attention going further and further.
I've only done restaurants sober, helping out, and that was probably one of the weirdest experiences I had because I came in to help manage, and the other person who was managing was also sober. He was sober. He had told me he was coming up on 9 months at the time. I was coming up on like 5, and he relapsed. And I watched him. It was the weirdest situation because he was telling me he was going to meetings and coming back like wasted. And like I was new in recovery and I was just filling in at the friend's restaurant. And they're also
Heavy drinker.
heavy drinkers, but they drank the way I drink. And they were very mean about it when they came back. And, you know, they were just happy to have a drinking buddy back. And it was so weird. And again, I went to so many meetings that week, like just being like, I don't know what to do. I can't call anyone out. Like I felt very in the restaurant world, and all the employees smoked and drank. So I was really the odd man out. Yeah. They liked the manager who let them drink and take shots of the inventory behind the bar. And yeah. Well,
Yeah. Restaurant industry is an interesting industry, that's for sure. In the state of Alabama, it's very strict, and you're not allowed to you're not allowed to drink on the job. Obviously, that's should be the case across the board, but there are certain states and areas that don't discourage it if like a customer buys a shot for the bartender and stuff. So, but I think that it's definitely a industry where you do have a lot of
I think it's hard to say.
use. Yeah, it is what it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
the bartender used to be the person who sold blow, and what they would do is go in the bathroom and under the candle that's like in decor, he would put the bag, and then you would go take it, put the money, and then the bartender would go get it. And I mean, there were customers that used that bathroom in between, and we were psycho, but that sounded so normal. It's like, oh well, we need a pick me up for this long shift, like. And I mean, we could have gone and caught it any time. We're not even talking about alcohol. Alcohol, we just hid that. We would do the deli cups. And I mean, it's like anyone could have smelled it, but I don't know. I didn't want to go back after I got sober because I thought it would be too difficult. I just really wanted to help people. So I started studying psychology, and
Great.
I want to work in addiction and recovery. 'Cause that's, I know what it's like on the other side. And
Right.
it's I never want to go back. And I know like what Kate just said, the fact that you're constantly blogging and talking, it really does, it just pushes you so much further away from the drink.
Right.
And well, you don't want it.
Yeah, and I think we haven't said this, but I think we all know it is that a big part of staying sober is helping other people get sober. You know, like, and with your podcast, you're definitely doing it. You're normalizing getting sober or going alcohol free or choosing to be sober curious. And you do it in such a great way that's not shaming. I love how you share your experience, how you've talked about, the past sober Octobers that didn't work. I think so. You're already doing some of that,
Yeah, well, I just want to help someone here. Like, we also didn't make it through sober Octobers. Like there was a time it took what it took. And I just thought about during this interview. I'm like, is Evan gonna look back and like this is like out there and I should have asked his permission? He's gonna be like, oh, mom and dad, someone found your podcast. And like your parents were fucked up. Like, I don't know.
There might be periods of that.
Yeah.
But in the long run, he's going to be so proud of y'all and he's going to think it's so cool.
I hope so. Or he's gonna be like, man, mom and dad are narcs.
Well, it might be one of those things where it changes because we have seen the last couple of years just sobriety been such an uptick with all the alcohol-free beer and other options where, his age, it almost might make kind of the trend like smoking has kind of, it's not the cool thing to do anymore. Where drinking alcohol at a young age doesn't seem to be the cool thing to do anymore. I mean, I'm sure it will be replaced by something else that we will, scold them for. But right now, it seems like, that's not something
I'm not ready for
to
that.
worry about when he's 15 if he's sneaking out drinking because, that might just the culture seems to be shifting towards just being sober curious or just not overly drinking, whether that's advertising or what. But it seems like it's.
Well, I gave Colin a really good, and I know we can start to kind of wrap it up as we're kind of nearing the hour. I did ask Colin a question. Would you rather take away all of like the alcohol promotions, or would you rather have the equal match of marketing for recovery and help of alcohol addictions? So like that's all Budweiser commercials, all of, the Tito's commercials. Take those away, or would you rather just have it equally matched with recovery outreach?
I have an opinion, but I want to hear Colin's opinion.
Well, I mean, I definitely think advertising plays a huge part in it.
But would you rather take it away, or would you rather match with mental health advertising?
Well, I would rather take it away. So, yeah. And she brought up a point like there's in downtown Dallas, a billboard that it's a Miller Lite billboard and it has a waterfall
He doesn't want
going
to
down it. And it's like I've seen that billboard forever and thought it was the coolest thing at 5 years old. Like this, oh, it's the waterfall billboard. And then when I grew up, I realized it was for Miller Lite. But it's like I don't want to get rid of that billboard. That's such a big thing in my childhood. But I would say it would be nice to have mental health and awareness, those things be matched with that.
Like with, but the same with like 1-800 gambling that they give the. I really think that should be at the same for alcohol.
Yeah,
like, I really do.
Might be the new addiction that takes over. I think the youth, as cigarettes did and alcohol.
Okay,
did.
but now I want to hear
No,
which one would you go for?
I would vote for 50-50. Because I don't think we're ever going to be able to stop people from this socially acceptable drug. And so, and I've seen, I don't know, it's because my Instagram's all, everyone I follow is all mental health and positive and stuff. But I feel like my Instagram is, what I see is very pro mental health. And if that trend continues as well, I think that serves the purpose of matching the drug and alcohol advertising. I do want to say something so I think people are drinking less. I think people are getting more counseling. COVID was a big help with that, and that all that counseling became available to do online. Prior to COVID, a lot of insurance companies wouldn't pay for online or Zoom counseling. But one of the things, I hate to bring it down, one of the things I want to make people aware of, and the research is showing that alcohol is coming down, but the use of marijuana and the abuse of marijuana is going up.
Oh my God, 100%.
Yeah.
I literally did a screenshot of an article yesterday of a podcast that it was like an example of a newsletter. And it was like how to convince your friends to smoke marijuana with you. And I was like, no. We're not trying to convince people to start marijuana.
And that also might be with the THC infused drinks that companies are starting to do. Like, there's someone that podcast we like and listen to.
And he went to rehab, got sober, and
well, I wouldn't consider him sober. I would just consider him not drinking alcohol.
And you're really sad.
But you're right. The rise of smoking marijuana. It seems to be, and I think a lot of it was the THC being in, at breweries.
And they make it look like kids candy. Like they're like, oh, it's edibles, it's Skittles, it's like this cool Kool-Aid. And I'm like, they've talked about on the news the uprise of kids being brought into the ER because they accidentally ate their parents' THC infused. Because what happens when you get stoned? You get a little lazy, you forget, and you leave it out.
Yeah.
And your kids you're thinking, oh, they won't grab it. Well, it looks like gummy bears because it is gummy bears. They probably say it tastes weird. But they don't care. I mean, Evan would still, he's not going to spit it out.
You're right. That was one thing I haven't thought about, but yeah, you're
Sorry,
right. That I'm
strong feelings about.
No, I think
That was more aware of.
yeah, they will all think that.
Yeah, I agree with y'all are wrong because I mean, weed is not legal in Alabama. It's not even like medically it's not even medically prescribed yet. But there, like, I could go to Piggly Wiggly and there's THC drinks on the shelf. So I'm like, I don't know how this is happening. I've had THC drink sales reps come into the pub and be like, will you sell this at the pub? And I'm like, it's not legal in Alabama. Like, I'm not going to be the test bunny. My restaurant isn't going to be the test bunny to like figure out, is this going to slide? Like, I don't know. But also, I think that it is becoming like prevalent. That's for sure.
Yeah, because if you sell THC beer and then someone were to get in the wreck, or is there a limit on what you could order? Because really, as a bartender, taking like Texas alcohol beverage, the TABC, you're supposed to
liable.
have a limit on what you can serve, or if
The
someone.
dram shop laws.
I wonder what the drink for THC would be if someone left your restaurant and, something happens in the parking lot, or like, what do you have to do as cutoff?
Yeah, it's very complicated and
Oh,
yeah.
that makes me, oh, there's reps.
But going back to the original question, I think that promoting more like sober stuff would be great as well. But I think that there's like better help. I feel like every YouTube video right now, every podcast, BetterHelp is one of the ads that's been coming up, which I think is great.
Last question, as far as getting sober and staying sober, what were because you did mention at the very beginning that it was a progressive disease and you always did things, I think you said swim and some other activities. So when you first got sober, what activities did you kind of go back to? I know one for me was I played a lot of tennis as a junior. I went back to kind of playing more tennis because it was an activity I did before I associated it with drinking. So even though there was time in my life where drinking and tennis was together, there was also time in my life where tennis was just tennis. It wasn't it wasn't combined with drinking. So I could fall back on activities that would bring me back to that time where, I had fun without alcohol. And so I was curious, did you have any activities that you fell back on or did to help you stay sober in the beginning? And then what are those activities now? Have they changed, evolved, or are they still the same?
That is a great question. And the short answer is that, I would say that because I was a distance swimmer, which evolved into triathlons and things like that, that was an addiction for me, and fitness up until having children. So yeah, no, I didn't fall back into swimming or fitness or any of those things because it would have been a trigger, honestly. The thing that I did, and I did it to an extreme, like don't do what I did, is I embraced myself too much into my sobriety program, too much into the 12-step program and eating, living, breathing, which is part of how the book evolved too, because I excluded my family from that. So yeah, I've learned, and the thing I preach all the time is balance. And that is that I have to devote a healthy amount of time to sleep is my number one self-help tool, by the way. But, nutrition and sleep, social outlets, emotional outlets. I still do a twice a month female group therapy, which I love. I still go to meetings. I do. Now I have changed. I have evolved in my program to doing a lot of adult child of alcoholics meetings because once I got sober, I began to and had a foundation of strength so that I could deal with some of the trauma in the past. I realized I could only get so far in my recovery until I dealt with those issues. So I continue to address that. So I mean, so what is it? It's mental, physical, social, and spiritual. I mean, I try to keep a balance in all of those things. My probably best self-help tools are balance, sleep, journaling, going to meetings. I'm kind of boring.
You know, doesn't sound boring at all to me. I'm like, that's how I was at first too. Like, I mean, I really was,
Yeah.
I got addicted to me. I mean, I was going to 3 or 4 a day at one point, but it's kind of like I didn't trust myself to go anywhere else, you know?
Yeah.
But it's been with a kid, it's a lot. I mean, it's just as a parent, it's a lot.
Right.
And, any other, Katie, thank you. You've been amazing, but I appreciate your honesty and just talking about how it is from your perspective of,
Oh, thank y'all. Thank y'all so much for having us and letting me tag along with my mom.
hey, you
And
have your own story too.
she does. She has a great story. And again, I want to emphasize because when I was in treatment, so many of us, and I went from treatment to a halfway house, so many of us were estranged from our kids. And I want to reassure people and give people hope that you can repair that relationship. I mean, I would never give up on my dad if I were you. You know, I wouldn't waste energy, emotional energy into it. But, you know, there's always hope in prayer. So, which is a big
I don't have boundaries if he's still.
Oh, good point.
Yeah. But I've seen miracles happen. I do not give up on that. I don't, anything is possible. So
My dad quit drinking. My dad quit drinking unexpectedly over a doctor telling him that the alcohol was the biggest contributing factor to his memory loss. And he stopped drinking.
I do have I have hope.
Well, and that goes back to a disease is insidious. You know, it's just doesn't make sense.
It's hard. But it's all I can do is be like, yeah, I know how you feel, and I love him. I love him where he's at, you know, and maybe there'll be a miracle. Maybe one day. That'd be awesome. But I don't know.
It's one day at a time.
Well, again, thank y'all both for coming on. I want to say
Thanks for having us.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
Y'all are amazing hosts, by the way. You're like I'm excited to listen to more.
We're still nervous and awkward and all the things you were saying.
Yeah, I can see Colin's little spots all light up red. That's when he gets nervous. That's how I know. I'm like, oh, his little birthmark started standing out. It's funny.
But y'all made me less nervous, and I feel like I was like, yeah,
good. We're not. We try to just be people. We're like, we don't know. We don't know. We're just trying.
We just know what works for us. That's all.
That's all. We do not claim to be experts. I'm like, maybe when I graduate, I can put something. But even then, I mean, there's
the podcast.
no, y'all were doing great. One,
right.
I really enjoyed this.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you guys. I hope maybe even after the book comes out, we can do a follow-up and see how it's going. But I will definitely put everything in the show notes and
blog, book, everything.
I really appreciate it and honestly, my kids have heard me say this, but for me, it really is about the surface work. We went through hell, me and my kids, and I don't want anyone else have to do that. So it really is about, it's not about making money. It's about getting the book out there into hands of other alcoholics like me who don't know how to repair their relationships and want to build them back.
Oh, no, I hope I can. I want to write a book one day. It's just, and I've started little chapters here and there, but it's hard and it takes a lot of work. So, I mean, and I don't think there's this hard line of being like, you want to just share the word, but there is also like, you're worthy of making money on that because you put a lot of hard work into it outside of just your experience, the sitting down, the writing, the time, the editing, the people that you're having to hire to bring on. And it's like, that's where the adult children of alcoholics comes in, because you're like, want to be so codependent that you're like, no, just have it for free. Like, how, but at the same time, it's like, hey, I'm worth something. Okay. Like, I'm valuable, but there's that little voice in your head that's like, just give it away. Yeah. I get it. I get it. That's the balance of, that's what I think I need someone to be my boss. That's why I don't think I can be my own boss, because I will fight with that back and forth. So yeah, I would have to hire an agent. there would be zero profit. I'd be like,
But if you want to do it just a little bit at a time, like I've seen like my mom go through highs and lows and slow points and steady points. And it's like times when she needed a break from like do it, but it's just the repetition of continuing and circling back to it. And even if it's like 30 minutes in the morning of like some kind of writing, even if it's not writing, like brainstorming or outlining or something, like that's why I feel very grateful that I've been able to watch this whole process, because I do think dreams can come true with just hard work and dedication. And that's why my mom's gone from like at one point like an enemy to now like my like biggest inspiration. And I'm just so proud to be my mom's daughter.
that's amazing. So that's what sobriety can do.
Yeah.
So,
Definitely.
so thank you.
Thank you.